Шановні колеги, ми
Dear colleagues, we continue our working day, and I invite to the microphone Colonel Andriy Lysenko. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Please listen to the news from the ATO area during last 24 hours and about exercises, military exercises of Ukrainian army. And immediately good news. Yesterday in the ATO area, no one Ukrainian servicemen were wounded and no one were killed. The latest 24 hours are defined by a relative decrease in the combat activities of the enemies. Thus, the general number of shellings amounts to 54 ones instead of 78 during the previous day. Nevertheless, the prohibited weaponry is used, in particular artillery, heavy mortars, and armored vehicles, and in particular, more specifically, around Lugansk, the situation partially stabilized. Near Stanitsa Luganska, where 3 mines were launched by the enemies, also grenade launchers and small arms were used, and near Novozvanivka, which is close to Popasna, 5 short-term armored provocations were registered. Near Donetsk, the number of ceasefire violations had decreased almost twice and amounted to 24 cases. In Zaitsev, where the day before yesterday more than 150 mines were launched. The number of shellings decreased considerably and happened only after sunset. In neighboring Mayorsk, there were 2 shellings around midnight. The hottest spot yesterday was Avdiivka. The shellings continued both day and night time. More than 50 mortar mines were launched of big caliber, 82 and 120 millimeters, also grenade launchers and big caliber machine guns. Unfortunately, in result of the shelling of residential quarters in Avdiivka, a 19-year-old guy was killed. He was in his courtyard and was targeted by a shell. The main intelligence department had registered the use of radio electronic warfare system Zhitel operation near Avdiivka. At the Svetlodarsk bridge and near Lugansk, there were several combat provocations. For example, near Luhansk, there was a 20-minute shelling. Near Donetsk airport, around 6 hours p.m., the band formations opened fire from mortars, grenade launchers, and machine guns, but stopped to shell after sunset. Near Novoselivka Druga, some provocation was held. Around Mariupol, at 4 a.m., the mortar shelling of our positions was near Krasnogorivka when 12 mines were launched. The rest time, the situation was quiet. In neighboring Maryanka, there were 4 shellings from small arms. To the south from this point, the illegal band formations had short-time shellings, provoking our servicemen to open fire in response near Slavne, Novogregorivka, Starognativka. The biggest activity yesterday was around Mariupol, was near Azov Sea, near Gnutov, Talakivka, Vodyane, Shirokine, where more than 10 shellings of more than 122 millimeters happened. Yesterday, there were 24 drone flights, and 1/4 of them there were 24 shellings yesterday, and 1/4 of them from heavy weaponry. Also, the enemies used the radio electronic warfare system like Rtut. The losses of the enemies: 6 occupants were killed and 7 were wounded. The biggest losses were near Avdiivka. Ukrainian sappers continue to demine pre-front line areas. During the entire 2015 year, the sappers neutralized more than 90,000 explosive ordinances. More than 2,000 servicemen were trained in Staryczach near Lviv and in Kam'yanets-Podilsky to strengthen our sapper military units. Also, the sappers with dogs were more than 100 sappers with dogs were trained. In general, in the ATO area, we have 60 units of operational support, like engineering troops, radiational troops, chemical defense, biology defense, and electronic warfare troops. One more militant had used the SBU program "You Are Waited at Home." When he ran out of money in 2015, he joined the illegal band formation, but after several months he came back to his wife and children in Lugansk Oblast, where he surrendered to SBU, and now, after double check of his information, Severodonetsk local court liberated him from criminal responsibility. Also, trainings of Ukrainian National Guard's servicemen continue now. During the last months, trainees of the Ukrainian higher educational institutions had an internship in the military units in the ATO area. Young officers had their internship in the artillery and tank brigades. At the same time, the moral and psychological situation in the militants units decreases. Some days ago, the quarrel break out between militants when they fought for the scrap metal, and because of the knife wound, 29 years old Anatoly Verovsky was killed. Ukrainian volunteers and Western partners provide assistance to Ukrainian servicemen. The charity organizations from Belgium supplied 60 tons of construction materials for construction of hostels for Ukrainian servicemen. These materials will be directed to the 95th Airborne Brigade and to Ochakov. And now questions. Good afternoon. I'm Levchenko Semen, Chasruho newspaper. I have two questions. So the first question. That decrease in combat activities of DPR and LPR. Do you think that this is a decrease of operations before the general offensive? This might mean that they plan to start offensive along the entire front line. 54 shellings during the last day. It's not the ceasefire, actually. It's not the silent situation. I only described the lower intensity in shellings, actually. But we are very happy that we managed to preserve lives of our servicemen. Actually, I do not think that this is a silent or quiet situation. That is, the shellings continue. And the second question. Before your briefing, we listened to the briefing of Romanov, CEO of Ukroboronprom, and he mentioned that 75% of their income of their dividends go to the state. Before him, we had a briefing of 70, the press conference of the Deputy Minister of Economy, who said that 75% of their income to the state budget. Thus, Romanov believes that all the income is withdrawn from the defense industry. I would ask you to point out to the financial bodies why the defense industry is in such poor conditions. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's interesting information. We will try to stick with it. Thank you. The press conference is over, and